Pete, well done on the broadcast, mate, but what a great night of boxing. We saw Sam Goodman come through. Let's talk about that first of all. Great win in the main event. And Pete never really looked troubled. For someone that had the weight of the world on his shoulders, we heard you talk about the financial stress he's been under, the pressure, the world rankings on the line. He looked very comfortable in there, and he let it kind of show afterwards. But, up until then, mate, he was fantastic.
Absolutely. Look, I think the Ghost exercised some demons tonight. I mean, it's been 10 months since he's been in the ring. He had every reason to be a bit nervous, especially after the Inoue disaster and the devastation around the two cuts that derailed his world title bid. But I've got to say, he was in control from the first round. I mean, I was amazed at how there was no sign of ring rust. He slipped straight into the groove. I thought his movement was amazing. His distance control was supreme. His ability to execute shots, his shot selection, his ability to pressure Vaca, almost like Tim Tszyu, like pressure, the stalking presence, even though Vaca was physically the bigger man by the looks of it. So Sam Goodman, to me, showed tonight, outside of Inoue, he's the best super bantamweight in the world.
Just talking to George Rose, Pete, about whether or not Inoue beats Akhmadaliev, if that's what happens next. It looks like Eddie Hearn's sort of been touting that as the next fight for Inoue. He's looked vulnerable a little bit recently, Pete. I mean, I wouldn't say to a point where, he's guaranteed to end up with a defeat, but does he just maybe not care at junior featherweight anymore, Pete? Is it just like he wants to go up and get some bigger fights, or do you think he can genuinely be beaten by Akhmadaliev?
I think you can be beaten, but it's a good point you make, Stevie. I mean, when you're 30-0 and you've dominated the division for as long as you have, there must enter a stage of your mind where you think, if I slip into fourth gear when I've got 5 or 6 gears, I could probably still get the job done. Look, he got caught by Lewis Neri in the first round. He got dropped again by Cardenas just the other week. So he's shown some vulnerabilities. Look, I don't know if I'm honest. I said in the coverage, is Sam Goodman good enough to beat Inoue? Let's be honest. I mean, I'd love to see Sam Goodman do it. We all would as Aussies, but I don't think his best is better than Inoue's best. However, if Inoue is slightly off, that's all Sam Goodman needs, because I think he's probably one of the fittest boxers in the world. He's got the IQ to beat Inoue. He hasn't got the power in my eyes, but if Inoue is slightly off, which he has shown it lately, he leaves openings because he can get a little bit reckless. I think Sam Goodman can capitalise, and there's no reason he couldn't pull off a boil over.
Yep. The night overall, Pete, was an absolute ripper, mate. You are loving it on commentary, mate. Some big statements for you on the broadcast about, the best heavyweight fight ever, and it's hard to disagree with that, mate, because that was an absolute beauty. What did you make of the night overall? It was fun. It was a real example of some great boxing on main event, and congratulations to Ivic with his win. Harry Garside was impressive. Let's be honest. Charlie Kazi got through some tricky rounds as well. What did you make of it overall, Pete?
You know what, Stevie, No Limit just continue to do it. I mean, I know they are the best promotional company in Australia. They were another amazing card, really great, really well-selected matchups. I love the Kazi fight. Patrick Vella, what about Golden Boy?
Yeah, the Terminator.
He's got more front than you, Stevie. Big mouth and big engine. Yeah. But look, I've got to say, that heavyweight fight, I'll die a happy man tonight. I will never see a fight like that again. I mean, anyone who was here, the whole arena was standing up for 2 or 3 rounds. The punches they threw, the force of those punches, the chin on Ivic to withstand that attack from Tszyu, who seemingly was gone, and then he rises from the dead, Tszyu. I thought Ben Harrington, his trainer, was about to throw in the towel. Mm-hmm. Somehow they both survived to the very end. It's the greatest heavyweight fight I've seen in Australian boxing circles. And then Harry Garside, super impressive, really, really good. 3-year hiatus. I know he's had the Paris Olympics as an amateur. Pro style's a bit different. I actually liked what I saw from Harry in terms of, I know he talked about his power. I thought he sat on his punches a bit tonight and wasn't afraid to get into a banging affair. So I liked what I saw from Harry. His speed's unbelievable. He's so slick. And the only one other thing I'll say, Steve, the stoppage in that fight was a disgrace. Yeah. I thought, poor old Charlie Bell, this is the biggest fight of his career, the biggest stage of his career. He wasn't copying supreme punishment. We've seen boxers cop worse. I've seen Jack Brubaker get absolutely bashed and go 10 rounds. Charlie was getting well beaten. He didn't win a round, but he should have got to that 6th round. That stoppage was the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fair call, Pete. I think it sort of comes down now to bite of safety. But at the same time, whilst he was being comfortably outpointed, he wasn't under any major danger, you'd have to say.
No, look, and even Harry would be the first to admit he's not the biggest puncher in his division. And so I don't think Charlie Bell was distressed at any point. And I think for a country kid from Moranbah, tough as nails, he was absorbing the blows. He could have easily got through another 3 minutes. Let him see out. He'd never been stopped before, so he'd be pretty gutted that he has been stopped. That's now on his record. But I like what I see from Harry Garside. And look, we would love to see Ahmed Redder fight Polkinghorn next, I'm told, for the title. And then the winner of that fight could fight Harry Garside. What a bombshell that'd be to see Garside and Redder. They're on a collision course.
Redder ready to go, mate. Wouldn't that be good? Pete, let's talk about Tim Tszyu. It looks like it's all coming to a head now. I think you broke the story alongside Brendan Bradford going back sort of 4 or 5 days ago that Fundora is happening. It looks like July 19 in Las Vegas. The rhetoric, it seems, from Tim Tszyu is that the cut doesn't bother him and that he feels confident, ready to avenge the defeat. But I know you and I have talked about the fact that it's not going to be a walkover fight. I've heard guys like Billy did the last few days talk about how busy Fundora is. You've talked about how busy Fundora is and how he just jabs and moves and he's so awkward to fight, he's so tall. Give us the full Pete Badel synopsis about how this is going to play out, what the prep's going to be over the next few months and what we can expect in Las Vegas.
Well, it's interesting. I just spoke to Tim on the coverage tonight, Steve, and I asked him where his camp would be, and he said he's staying here in Australia, which I think is a smart move. So previously, as we know, he went to America for 3 months for his previous fight against Fundora, and he said to me, look, it's just such a long time away from home, the financial outlay to get a home in Vegas or wherever you stay, so he'll be doing the camp here at home, and then 2 weeks before he'll head to America. So I think that's sound. I think there'll be no scars physically or emotionally, Steve. I think Tim will win this fight. Tim has the tools. I think he's got the confidence from that Spencer win. We wanted to see a bit of a statement. We got that. I think the first 2 rounds pre-cut in Vegas showed against Fundora that he was dominating him. I think he probably would have stopped him at some point, although we don't know. Look, maybe Fundora was downloading data and had that long lever to keep him at bay down in the later rounds. But I still think cut free this time. Hopefully it is, Stevie. Yep. I believe that Tim Tszyu will get revenge and the belts are coming back to Australia with Tim Tszyu.
Wow, he's predicted it here, mate. Here it is first.
I've called it.
He's called it. That's what we love, mate. We love predictions. Moving forward, though, does that mean like a Keith Thurman defence perhaps down under or something like that? I know we're probably looking a bit far forward, but tease the fans, mate. What do you think, could happen after that?
Well, I've spoken to Lola Limmer and they've talked about trying to get Charlo into the ring somehow. So maybe if Tim's got some belts, we could have a real firefight against Charlo. That would be amazing if Charlo came back against Tim Tszyu. But look, Thurman would be, to me, this makes sense in terms of order. I was always worried about the thought of fighting Thurman with no belts on the line. That's too dangerous a fighter to take when there's nothing at stake for glory. Now you go for Fundora, go for the belts, get some cachet, get some currency, and then Thurman would be an absolute blockbuster here in Australia with a belt on the line. That would be amazing. But I think Tim Tszyu, if he beats Fundora, that gives him all the confidence in the world to put away someone like Thurman, who is one of the greats of his generation.
Perfect. Pete, thank you very much, mate. Well done again. Absolutely outstanding on the broadcast, mate. Look forward to hearing plenty more from you moving forward.
Anytime, Stevie. Thanks, mate.